Okay. Especially to the people like me who sit at the back. Everybody recharged, had good food. Good. Yeah, we can just hear from the front rows. So, okay. My name is Himanshu. I come from Ivy, and I write a lot of blogs over Medium, over Google, Google Cloud, Firebase, and other stuff around Angular. And you can follow me there. Today, I'll be speaking about the built-in control flow. So last year, November 8th, 2023, that is called as the period of Angular Renaissance. It was the 13th anniversary of the Red Shield. So that is how and after which the upcoming two versions have been like game changing for the Angular dev community. What we have been trying, if you have been following posts from Minko Genkev or other community followers from Angular team, you must have seen the last two versions, 16 and 17, has been all about performance, getting a more leaner framework, more developer friendly framework, right? So today we are about to talk about Angular control flow. So what is actually control flow? What comes to your mind? Something like this that we generally see. So, but that's let's go get to a more sciencey definition of it. So, in computer science, control flow or flow of control is the order in which statements, instructions, function calls of an imperative program are executed or evaluated. Now, this keyword imperative is the most important to follow because this is what differentiates an actual control flow from an imperative program to a declarative program. So we control flow features you will find only in imperative programming languages. So there has been a huge change in how we used to write code, the ng ifs, the ng fors, the ng switch. So let's see what changes we have gone through. Ng if has now become something like this, @if. Ng switch has now become something like this, @switch, and same goes for your favorite ng for, which becomes something like this, @. But where the hell this @ came from? What is this all about the syntax? Why not hash if? Why not slash if? Why not colon else? If you go ahead, a junior developer comes to me or comes to any of the senior developers, the general answer when they will ask us the question, why I have a syntax like this, a reaction like this comes to our mind. So this is what generally happens, but that's not the case. So it has been, if you follow the Angular RFC process, it has always been decision-based, evidence-based decision making. So it is always, the Angular team always puts a lot of stress upon how they are taking every decision. So two RFCs were developed, and one of them was for deferred views, and the other one was for the control flow syntax. They collected and collated data from different resources, user interaction research, different developers, and our yearly lovely developer survey, which happens every year, which many of you might have also contributed to. And at every time, every moment in time, the results were very clear. There was a 2:1 ratio of people who were inclined towards the @ syntax rather than going for the hash syntax or the star syntax. So, and there's a saying, a syntax can really ignite passion among the developers, right? So when you see your favorite syntax, many people are very much keen upon using Python because it brings you that simplicity, right? So syntaxes can really ignite passion into you. So let's now talk about a side-by-side comparison on how we used to write and what we are doing right now. So let's see the if block. In a journal if condition, I'll have to write a then block, I have to write an else block, then ng template, which I just cannot run away from, right? But the newer syntax is much more ergonomical. It brings you much more linearity, better type checking, thanks to the optional type narrowing that we have right now. And also it has become way more ergonomical in the way if you see. So let's now move to one more variation which we never run away from, is using observables, an async piece of code. But the thing that is common in both these slides is the ng template. It's very tedious to write, right? So in the new syntax, you can really see how easy it has become. It's user, observable, async pipe, and you are done. Now I'll move to the favorite part of mine, that is the for loop. Whenever your managers comes to you about taking a legacy piece of code and ask you to improve a performance, the first thing that you go run there and put a track by function. So this is what happens all the time, right? So if you see the new control flow for looping, that is for the for loop, we have a better track by function right now. Now track by is an expression based function, not just something that you put up as a code into your component template. So it has much more improved. It is 90% faster based on the deferred algorithms right now, which are implemented inside the control flow. And now track item is mandatory. Earlier we used to dodge that way of writing the track functions, but right now it is mandatory. Now let's switch to the most tedious one, which I generally don't write, is the switch statement. Very verbose, you have to write a lot of stuff around it, and just ng ifs, ng ifs, ng ifs, it just doesn't make sense. But now I think the newer syntax will ignite more passion into the developers of using the new control flow. It's much more easier to read and very shiny as well. But just imagine now, you have to take this piece of code from the left side and you have to migrate it to the right side, right? So the first question that comes to my mind, we are talking about Angular, right? So is there a migration schematic? Something has been automated in this particular venture or not? So the answer is to this definitive question is yes, there is a migration schematic. So I'll show you a simple piece of code which has an ng if, which has an ng for, a very newish kind of an ng switch. You have this control flow schematic, which is ng generate @angular core control flow, and boom, you get this new syntax auto migrated, all done. So demo time. I developed this small application, so which Super Bowl is coming. If some of you are in the sports field, oh, you don't see that. Glitches of logistics, not me. Demo will work. So this is a simple application that I developed. You have a Google sign-in flow. You sign into Google. This is written in Angular 17, working on Firebase, using the single sign-on for Firebase. The backend for this particular project is deployed over App Engine, Google Cloud. So let's just see if it connects, and yes, it does. So it's a simple application which lists down all the key players from different teams playing in the Super Bowl, right? So again, hold your horses, net speed. So I created two modes to it. One is just the gallery mode where you see all the players, and one is the play mode. So this is all written in Angular 17, and we'll just go to the play mode. We'll try here if we know the name. So we do know it's Joe Flacco. We submit it, nice little animation, and we move to the next part. But let's dig into the code of what we are actually trying to do here. So I'll try to give you a demo of the schematic. There are two versions to it. The one schematic that we saw migrates everything in your project, right? So it applies globally. So, but first of all, what we'll try to do is do something that is file based. So I just want to migrate one of my files to the new control flow syntax. So I have a file which is in gallery, which we just saw all the players being done there. We run this particular schematic and it should right now pop in. If I just want to change the template of, reformat the template of one of my HTML files, I say yes. It goes ahead and reformats it. So let's see what the changes were introduced. So if you see, I was actually using here the older control flow syntaxes. It's ng if. It has readily migrated it to @if. I have an async pipe. I still had something with these. I had an older for which was not using a track by. So it has been very generous enough to introduce a mandatory track by as we discussed. And these are the kind of changes that we see. So it has right now become very simple to migrate your pieces of code from one syntax to the other one. Now let's see how it applies to the whole file system, right? So let's go there and apply the schematic. And I have almost 3 or 4 components in my particular project, and it should be able to migrate all of them in a jiffy. So my bad. Let us run it again. I'll give the path as the root folder. I say yes. And I want to show you one thing, which is still it's in developer preview, but there is a catch. So we'll see where it actually breaks. And this will be in the journal version when we actually go to version 18. So that's the roadmap for it. It should be able to do it quick, and that's it. So it has right now changed 3 components: snack bar, component.html, loader component, as well as the user menu. So if we see all the changes like we saw in the previous file, we do have these changes to the async pipe. We do have changes to all the if blocks, but let's recompile the code and see whether the application really works or it breaks somewhere. Generating the build again, and we see it breaks. There is a warning. Let's closely watch. This warning is what about? It nicely gives you all the information that you need to fix it. So in the gallery component, it is saying the surrounding if has more than one node at its root. So let's go there. Let's try to fix it. And the way to fix it is put it inside an ng container. You will have to do that still if you are using material library. So put it inside an ng container. This whole piece of code, the title and the subtitle from material library, we'll grab it. And it should compile just fine right now. Let's go back to our application and see. So let me go back, refresh. And it just works, right? So this is a major takeaway that I want you to take from this particular talk. It is in developer preview, but what does it really mean? If you're still using material library, it will break. You have to enclose it inside the ng container. The warnings will be very clear on the CLI command line. So let's head back to the presentation and let's talk about performance. So I said it's using a new defer algorithm. I also said it is now using a mandatory track by function. This improves the performance by 90%. But when we say it improves the performance by 90%, the new algorithm and the new implementation, we should really ask, doing what? So if you see, this is a public benchmarking result, and it is almost 90% faster swapping 2 rows for a table which had around 1000 rows. So this is where it becomes really faster. So it is not just something, a syntactical sugar like arrow functions gave us, but it is something which is really performant right now. And guys, that was my time. Thank you for patiently listening. And do follow again all our blogs. I love all my followers. Reach out to the Ivy booth. My team is there. And me, if you have a broken piece of code, your schematic is not working, do reach us out there. We have a nice quiz running and a lot of goodies to grab for. Thank you.